Now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming co-founder and CEO of Pinterest, Ben Silbermann, for an interview with Chief Global Content Officer of Shoptalk, Zia Daniel Wigder.
Well, welcome back to Shoptalk, Ben.
Thanks.
You joined us last year here on stage. Lots of exciting things that have happened in the business since then, which we'll be going into. But to start out, on the very slim chance there's anyone in the audience who doesn't know Pinterest, maybe you can give us just kind of the 30-second overview.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me back. Reminded again, there are a lot of people in this room. Look, Pinterest is a visual discovery tool. People use it to get inspiration, to make plans, to get ideas for things in their life. And sometimes they're big things. People will redecorate their home, or they'll plan kind of a once-in-a-lifetime event like a wedding. And sometimes they're small things. Maybe picking a new outfit, picking a new recipe to try out. And our goal as a company is to give people that inspiration and then enable them to go do those things in real life. So all of the brands and companies that are here are really important to us because they're kind of the bridge between having an idea and a feeling of wanting to do something, and then being able to actually take action on it in your life.
Okay, great. And given that the theme of the event this year is create the future of retail, tell us what your vision is of the future of shopping.
It's pretty simple, actually. Our mission has been really consistent from the beginning. When you open Pinterest, we want it to feel like all these items were handpicked for you. They represent your taste, your style. It's not about your friends. It's not about the news. It's just about you. And when you see something that catches your eye, we want you to be able to take action on it. And that could mean buying it. That could mean cooking a recipe. But that simple vision, to me, mimics kind of the best parts of offline shopping, where you could walk into a department store and somebody who was an expert, they could help you figure out what's right for you. And to me, that experience of having someone or something help guide you, even if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, that is the biggest area for innovation. I feel like there's been so much innovation in commerce, in making selection great, delivery great, payment reliable, returns reliable, and it's just incredible. Like with your phone, if you know what you're looking for, there are great solutions to get it to your house. But when we talk about shopping, which is kind of an emotional experience, it's an introspective experience, it's a visual experience, I still think there's a lot of innovation yet to come.
And we're almost in this social commerce renaissance. So I feel like a few years back, there were a lot of efforts. Some of them weren't necessarily ones that lasted. There have been a lot of different iterations. How do you see Pinterest being different than some of the other commerce initiatives by the social platforms today? How do you see shopping on Pinterest evolving differently than the way that some of the others have evolved?
I think for us, we don't think of shopping as like an expansion opportunity or a new button. We think of it as fulfilling what people already come to Pinterest to do. So if you come and you want to redecorate your home, eventually you're going to want to buy furniture and buy paint. And so shopping really is that bridge. And that means that the approach we've taken has just been very user-focused. Like we start by understanding what are the people that come to Pinterest, what are their pain points, and then we're just trying to close that gap and make it as smooth as possible. I also think that makes the environment of Pinterest really unique. We talk a lot about what we call the Pinterest mindset. Like how are people feeling and thinking when they use the service? And the things that characterize it is they're thinking about themselves, kind of their future, what that room could look like, how they're going to feel in that outfit. They have intent, right? They're actually there to look at content and to look at ideas, not to talk with their friends. But they're still really open-minded, right? They haven't gotten to that point where they say, I want this model of shoe or this specific piece of furniture. And I think that mindset is really unique, and it's really important if you're a retailer, because at the end of the day, kind of your highest purpose is to reach people who don't know about you yet, and help make sure that your products are the connection between the life they want to live and your business. And so I think that mindset is really unique, and I think that's why a lot of the retailers that invested early have seen some good success.
Okay. And can you tell us sort of what you've learned about consumers over the years? Obviously, there's a huge amount that you've learned about how they interact with a variety of different types of images in a variety of different areas. What are some of the things you think will be helpful as you dive into shopping?
Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time talking to users. Like my co-founder and I will go visit people in their homes. We have research teams. We look at a lot of data. I would say there are a few things that I've noticed, and one is that when I talk to kind of marketers, they often will draw this funnel. It's like consideration or awareness, consideration, and purchase, as if it's this super linear process.
Right.
But when you watch people actually shop, it doesn't exactly follow that at all. And sometimes they're going up, and sometimes they're going sideways, and sometimes they're going down. I had this experience recently where I have a 6-year-old, and he wants his own desk. So he's been doing his homework on the kitchen table, and he wants his own desk. And so I had a very clear thing. I want a cheap kid's desk that won't fall apart.
Yep.
And so I went on Pinterest and I started looking, and then I saw all these rooms where parents had organized all of their crafting equipment.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, I broadened that a lot more. And I think that is pretty typical. People often come in with an open-ended idea, and then when they see something that's inspiring, that'll cause them to sometimes broaden their horizons, sometimes to narrow in on their taste. And understanding that and then meeting consumers where they are in that journey, I think is really important. So that's one big lesson that we've learned.
Okay. And a lot of your consumers are outside the US these days, is that right? Over half, I believe, are now non-American users. Talk a little bit about just the process of internationalizing. You're an image-based platform, so you don't have to deal with all of the translation issues that many of the other platforms out there might have to. What does that look like, and where are your users? And talk a little bit about that piece.
Yeah, it's funny. A few years ago, we were mainly US-based. And so really over the last 3 years, we've invested in growing in Western Europe, in South America, in parts of Asia. And to be totally honest, I completely underestimated how easy it would be. I was like, this will be the year of international. And I told the company, I'm like, this year we're going to figure out international. And then I had to stand up in front of the company next year. I'm like, this is also the year of international.
And next year.
And next year was also the year of international. And I think that, even though Pinterest is visual, it's really important that the things they see, the ideas and the products, they're relevant to them. That means if I'm in France and I want to buy an article of clothing, it has to be from a French retailer. It's a very basic lesson, but we had to learn it firsthand, that you have to go to the countries, meet the customers there, understand what their experience is. And there was a lot of work to do that. And I think that we made a lot of progress, but we're still kind of working on that North Star vision of how do you make sure that when you open Pinterest for the first time or the 100th time, it feels like it was handpicked for you. And every single time you use it, it better reflects your taste and your aspirations.
Okay, great. So let's dive a little bit more into some of the specific shopping features. You guys announced a few things yesterday. Maybe you want to just talk a little bit about how those new offerings fit into the broader shopping initiatives that you've embraced over the past few years on Pinterest.
Yeah, we announced a couple things that I'm really excited about, just as a user, but also as the co-founder of the company. First, we're allowing retailers for the first time to upload their entire catalog and then to organize it the way they want. And the reason that's so important is because when retailers can upload their catalogs, we can do a much better job of showing consumers who might be looking for their products in context. And the more the products are there, the better the relevance gets. And so in parallel, we've introduced some new parts of Pinterest where a consumer can easily get shoppable recommendations. So they can say, have a board of furniture, a board of clothing, a board of home decor items, and then they can actually see items that are buyable that are recommended based upon that set of things.
Okay.
So that's one kind of big announcement. It kind of represents kind of another step that we're taking just to make sure that when people come with that mindset of wanting to get inspired and then buy something, we can fulfill it. The other thing is we've simplified a lot of our shopping advertising products, because one thing we've heard is that once brands and retailers find those few products that are really resonating, they want to be able to extend their reach by paying. And so we want to make that really easy. And we've seen really great early success with a whole range of brands, from kind of offline, online, like a Room and Board, to online only, like a Rothy's Shoes. And so we want to keep investing and helping those retailers reach the customers they're looking for.
Okay. And one of the topics that's been the subject of many conversations here is all around automation. And recently, Shop the Look, which has been around for a couple of years at this point, became increasingly automated. Can you tell us, again, a little bit more about that product and what the new automation does that wasn't available before?
Yeah, so a few years ago, we introduced Shop the Look, and we let both influencers here and globally, as well as retailers, tag the items. And that's just a great experience from a consumer. Again, it kind of mimics when you walk into a physical store and you see kind of a mannequin with all the stuff, and then you can say, I want those individual items. But we've also invested over the last 4 or 5 years now in computer vision, and it's now gotten to the point where we can start automatically identifying the objects of interest in a scene and finding things that are visually similar. And that's a really big step forward. And so we've started to automate the process of Shop the Look. Now, if you're a retailer and you upload your own scenes, obviously you have control over those. We don't automate the placement of other products there. But we think that technology that can bridge that gap between feeling inspired and then finding the individual items that work for you at your price point is just really great for consumers and mimics kind of the natural way that people want to shop, especially for things that are taste-based, things that are aesthetic, things that are visual. Okay,
great. Tell us a little bit more then also about Lens. We haven't really kind of touched on the mobile piece, but that's quite different than some of the other things you're doing.
Yeah, so Lens is one of kind of a few applications of this computer vision technology. And computer vision has been one of those areas that I've personally been really excited about. I think 3 or 4 years ago, it kind of felt like a science project. It didn't work that well. But it's mirrored voice in a lot of ways, where it went from a science project to something that was useful in certain cases to a more and more general tool. So we use Lens in kind of 3 different ways. One we've talked about, which is being able to extract the objects out of an image. Second is to be able to understand the total aesthetic quality of an image. So you can take a bunch of scenes and we can understand what are the salient aesthetic features that make this living room attractive to you or this outfit really exciting. And then the third is Lens, which is doing the same thing but using your camera as the input. And so we've kind of doubled the relevance now of the results that are coming from it, and we continue to see steady progress. And the more people use it, the better it gets. But computer vision is just an area that I continue to be really excited about, and a lot of unexpected applications are coming out of it. One of my favorites is that a huge number of people use Pinterest for beauty queries. So they'll search makeup ideas, hairstyle ideas. But a year or 2 ago, we realized that we weren't doing a great job serving kind of all of our different users. And my wife, she's Indian, she would tell me, gosh, I search for eyeshadow makeup, and then I have to filter through lots of white people that aren't relevant to me. And so recently, we introduced skin tone filters, and we collaborated with folks that really understood how to set those up. But computer vision was one of the core technologies that enable experiences like that. So it wasn't something that we imagined when we first started investing in computer vision, but it's the type of visual experience that's opened up as computers get better and better at taking in visual inputs, processing them, and then turning them to experiences that feel inspiring and personal for consumers on the other side.
Okay, great. And another one of sort of the technologies I'd say that is still very top of mind for a lot of people is AI. We sort of introduced it as a topic at Shoptalk a couple years ago. This year, the sessions we've had on AI have been jam-packed, and one of the things we keep hearing from people is now it's actually a reality for us. You guys spent a lot of time in this area. You talked a little bit about the science project that was Lens before. What were the hard parts about building a new AI-based solution, since you obviously have been working on the visual search piece for quite a while?
Well, I think that AI is a very catchy word, and it means a lot of things to different people, but there are 3 ingredients that are really important. You need a very large set of data, and at Pinterest, that data, which we call the taste graph, is one of our core assets. And when we talk about it, what it means is, there are hundreds of millions of people pinning all the time. They're organizing information into those collections. And by looking at those collections and how they cluster, we can draw inferences from it. So one thing you need is a lot of data and the ability to process it. The second thing you need is feedback. So you need people that are interacting with it all the time. And when I said that one of our promises to users is that every time they use it, it'll feel more personal to them, that's what that feedback means. So we can take a look at both what you as an individual like aesthetically and what the population of people like. And we can begin to draw inferences, even if you don't have the vocabulary to describe exactly what you like about things. I remember talking to a user and she said, I always knew what kitchens I liked when I looked at them, but I didn't know it was called a farmhouse kitchen. And so I never would have been able to go to a designer or walk into Lowe's or Home Depot and say, I want a granite countertop and a sink that looks like this, and it's called like a farmhouse kitchen. So that feedback loop is really important. And then the third thing is you need really talented people. And we spend a lot of time recruiting and also training people at Pinterest. And I'm really proud of the quality of team we put together. There are people that are sort of on the cutting edge of academic research. And there are also people that are learning it, but they're really in the day-to-day of the consumer experience. And I think that blend of people that have the academic underpinning, but they're very practical about it. They're like, what can it do for a user today is a hard mix to find, and it's something that you really have to grow culturally within the company.
Okay. And of those three, which would you say is sort of the biggest challenge? Was it in finding talented people? Was it in building the data set?
It's changed at different phases of the company. I think really early on, we had a lot of work to do to take these massive data structures and make them comprehensible, and that required people in tech. Recruiting is always hard,
yep.
But it does change from year to year. I feel really good right now that the quality of recommendations, taste-based recommendations that Pinterest is providing, they really are best in class. And so I'm incredibly excited about taking these really high-quality recommendations that are about taste and inspiration, and then bridging the gap with the help of retailers towards their individual products. So I think when you can connect those two things together, that's the critical bridge that's missing. And the thing that separates commerce, which is like efficient, safe, reliable, and shopping, which is inspiring, emotional, and associative. And I'm really excited about closing that gap.
Okay. And what is your vision for the future of visual search? What do you think shopping is going to look like going forward as it becomes more sophisticated, as it becomes more widespread?
Well, I can tell you my hope.
Yep.
My hope is that you'll have a place that you feel safe to just think about your personal inspirations. And that's really, really important. You asked what are things we've learned about consumers. One of the things that we've learned is that people need to feel like they're not being judged and they don't have to project an image of themselves in order to do a lot of these kind of vulnerable things. Like, what kind of hairstyle should I have? Should I try on a new outfit? And so my vision is that you have a place for that, and you can just touch the things that resonate with you visually and aesthetically, and that can present you with more options that help you refine that taste. And so it's an interactive process. It's not like a robot that's like, that's what your wedding should look like, and that's what your house should look like. It's actually kind of a conversation you're having with the platform. And then again, like when you find those things, you have a very quick path to high quality, trustworthy retailer that can fulfill that, and then you can get on to like living your life. And we always say at Pinterest, our goal is not to keep you online scrolling through other people's lives and other people's ideas. Our goal is to give you inspiration, motivate you to buy products that you really love, and then go ahead and live the life that's the product of that hard work.
And how would you say the behavior of pinners has changed since they first started using Pinterest?
Geez. Well, first of all, every day I'm surprised by different ways that people use the platform. Like, I couldn't really even envision like how many different things there are. There are people with boards about like antique chronographers or 1950s era tattoos or vintage motorcycles from India. So one is just the enormous breadth of use cases. I think the second thing that always honestly inspires me about our pinners is they're really, really creative. And I think a lot of people, when they're young, they're told that they're not a creative person. Right. They're not a good painter, or they're not a good at drawing. But when you give them a tool that lets them express their tastes and preferences visually, and you remove that barrier, people get back in touch with this creative version of themselves. And that's been really exciting. There have been other changes as well, like 80% of the user base is now on the phone. And that's a big change from when we started. It was a desktop platform. But those two kind of central insights, just the sheer diversity of use cases, and the fact that when you give people a creative tool to express their preferences, they kind of always impress you and exceed maybe what you had imagined, are things that have always stuck with me about Pinterest and about our users.
Okay, great. And we don't have much time left, but an example of a brand that you think is using Pinterest particularly well?
There are a whole bunch. We talked a little bit about some of the like really progressive digital native brands. And
Yep.
we were just working with Rothy's, and they've seen great success both with their organic content, but also when they promote pins, it's become a really important channel for them to reach customers that maybe haven't seen their shoes before. We've seen brands do really progressive things. Levi's did some really cool experiences where they would create boards for you, and they had sort of a style picker. And then I've also really been inspired by brands that have both an online and offline presence, and we see more and more brands that are able to take Pinterest, use both our organic and paid solutions, and track and find that it increases both online conversions, but they see people coming into their stores, and it inspires them to buy new things. And so I think all of those things bode well for the future. And even though I'm delighted, I'm also not surprised, because the one thing I'm 100% sure of is that when people come to Pinterest, they come with this very specific mindset of getting inspiration. And we know it when we just look at how they use it. They have boards like my next living room, or like things I want to buy for my wife on her birthday. And so we know that the intent is there. We just need to partner with retailers to help bridge that inspiring intent into real world action.
Great. That's all the time we have, unfortunately. Lots of exciting things happening. You guys are in the media a lot. Wish you all the best. Thank you, Ben, for joining us again this year.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ben and Zia.